he's been a great work for Tristan Wirfs, and that's been a great battle to watch that over there. And but yeah, Shaq's he's legit.
Thanks, Bruce.
Okay, next is going to be Greg Allman.
Hey, Coach, I know you're down a corner or two right now, and you guys have done a really good job of having flexibility even between some of the safeties and some of the corners when it comes to nickel. So I was just curious, I don't know how much you would want to say, but if you had to plug someone else into nickel right now, I was curious who that might be.
Well, it could be a number of guys. It could be Mike Edwards. It could be Winfield, Mozzie. We trained a lot of Ryan Smith. We trained a lot of guys at nickel, and just in case. So we have at least 5 or 6 guys that, if there were problems during a game, we can substitute guys in.
How do you feel? We talked to you a lot about the starters, but I mean, how do you feel about the overall depth you have in the secondary, in the 7th and 8th and even 9th guys there?
I feel fine. I mean, Mozzie's been solid. Motley had a hell of a camp. Ryan's had a good camp. Dakota Dixon and Hagan, they've been impressive at times. So yeah, there's good quality depth, and we'll be releasing good players.
Thank you.
All right, next is going to be Jenna Lane.
Coach, back to Ronald Jones. How important is it for a young player, especially when it comes to things like pass protection, to, get comfortable watching themselves making mistakes and really kind of learning to break themselves down, especially some of these guys that are, kind of used to being a big deal in college. They get to the NFL and it doesn't go their way right away.
That's usually the thing that makes them fail as a rookie or a sophomore even, is pass protection, because they don't do it very often in college. And especially a big linebacker up the middle. It's a mindset when you go and block, Devin or Levante straight up the middle in the A gap, and that's why we have that drill twice a camp, just to get them used to the noise level and what's going to happen in there. So that's the biggest learning curve for all running backs.
With Ronald, how much of growth have you seen from him from a sheer belief standpoint, right? Like, he had a rough rookie season. You started to see the confidence grow last year. Seems like he's walking even taller this year.
Yeah, I wasn't here for his rookie year, so I can't really comment on it. He was solid last year. He was growing each week as a player, very young player, was a one-trick pony runner only. And, he's grown into possibly a 3-down player.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, next is going to be Ed Encino.
Coach, I was wondering, I know it's only been a couple of days, but kind of how Ryan Suckup's looked in practice so far in his competition with Matt Gay.
Yeah, he kicked well yesterday, and I gave both of them off today to get them ready for tomorrow in the stadium. And I mean, he's got a 12 or 13-year resume, so it's not like just seeing if he's healthy and just watch the competition and see how it goes.
And I know you're winding down on the hitting now, and obviously this was different in terms of more of the hitting sessions. I mean, when you look back on what you guys have been able to do to simulate some of the stuff that you couldn't get with preseason games, where do you kind of assess where that you guys have done enough for that, you've done what you can do given what you haven't been able to do,
Yeah, we tackled ourselves way more than we ever have, and we won't do that. We'll wear shoulder pads tomorrow just for protection, like a Wednesday practice, and but tomorrow's just about getting back in the stadium, getting back into the environment a little bit, and just having a good solid practice versus our first 3 opponents, and looking at different stuff that they do. So yeah, I mean, I think we're where we need to be.
Thank you.
Okay, next is going to be Ira Kaufman.
Bruce, you had the pleasure of coaching Patrick Peterson, a guy who could shadow the other team's best receivers, Bruce. And you got Michael Thomas and Julio Jones in the division. Bruce, is that an important thing to develop for the Buck defense? And if so, who can handle that?
Well, I think Carlton stepped up at the end of the season last year. He had DeAndre Hopkins, he had Michael Thomas, he had Julio, and each guy is so different, and we game plan them all differently. But he shadowed those guys some, and I thought he held his own more than enough.
Is that an important factor that you'd like to develop in Tampa, Bruce?
Well, I'd like to have two corners that could do it, and I'm not afraid when we go to nickel for Dean to do it because he's big and strong and he's got the length. Same with Sean. That's why we like those long, tall guys that are fast and they can match up with these tall, fast receivers. So, but you got physicality when you talk about Mike, DeAndre, and especially Julio that comes into play. So, I think they held their own last year, and I feel pretty solid about that.
Thanks, Bruce.
You bet, Ira.
Okay, next is going to be Mark Cook.
Coach, we're just a week and a day away from the kickoff to the NFL season. Obviously, this COVID-19 pandemic has created a lot of hassles and headaches. Was there ever a time over the last few months where you genuinely questioned if this season was even going to happen, or were you always confident that they'd be able to get it kicked off?
Well, if you'd asked me in June, I would have said there's no way. But if you ask me now, I said I don't see any reason why not. It's just a matter of the commitment of everybody that's in tier 1 and tier 2 to stay safe and don't bring it into the building. And as long as that happens, and it's a big transition weekend. Guys are getting cut. People are moving into apartments. Finding places to live that make the team. So this will be a huge, huge weekend for that.
And Coach, 9 years ago this weekend, the city and the organization lost. Really, it's probably its greatest football player in Leroy Selman. I don't know if you ever had any interaction or remember Leroy Selman, but how important is it for an organization to remember guys like Leroy who meant a lot to the community, but really were the building blocks for the franchise?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, those are the guys that laid all the foundation. And I'd never met him, but I had total respect. Knew him as a player, watched him as a player, and was one of the best of all time. And you got highways and stuff named after you. It's pretty damn good. So it's important to remember that.
Okay, next is going to be Luke Easterling.
Bruce, you obviously have some tough decisions to make in the coming days. At this point in your career, does the human aspect of making those tough calls, ever get any easier? I know everybody understands this is a business, but does that still, sting a little to have to make some of those calls?
Worst day of the year. It always is. I mean, you're watching guys' livelihoods, and with the extended practice squad this year, you give some more guys hope, and but it's hard. I mean, they're putting everything they have into it, and sometimes you're cutting the guy that gives you more than everybody else, but just not quite as talented. Those are the hardest.
And you've talked about how important special teams is for those last few spots, but do you see any particular position groups where, because of the depth or who can do what on special teams, you think you'll have the toughest calls to make in those last few spots? Yeah,
there's no doubt in the inside outside linebacker rooms and the safety room. So those are guys they're still battling for jobs as we speak.
All right. Our next question is going to come from Kevin O'Donnell.
Hey, Bruce, just following up on Edward's question on hitting, do you think because of the lack of the preseason games that tackling league-wide is going to take a hit this year? It may not be as crisp as we've seen in the past. And do you think the guys league-wide are ready for the punishing hits that we've seen in the past?
No, I think it's going to be a shock to some people. There's no doubt. You hate hitting each other, but you had to do it this year to get some tackling in because it's a blocking and tackling game. I know everybody likes to see the ball in the air, but somebody's got to block for that to happen, and somebody's got to tackle. So, missing those preseason games and really the preseason practices also. We were set up with Jacksonville and Tennessee that we missed out on, so they got tired of hitting each other, and you go against the same guy every day, you kind of know all of his moves. So it gets old real fast, and to do it for 3 weeks is tough.
Do you think that means we might see more injuries this year?
I don't know about the injuries, but we're going to see more missed tackles, I think.
And next is going to be Steve Isbitz.
Coach, what's the battle looking like right now for the number 3 receiver job behind Evans and Godwin?
It probably depend on the play and the personnel group. Justin Watson's had a hell of a camp. Scotty's had a great camp. So, I mean, if there are 1 and 2, I'm fine. I mean, they're battling. It'll be just whatever personnel group, put them in for whatever we're looking for on that single play. But those two guys they're locked in solid, and the 5-6 spots are still a battle.
And do you have any history with Ryan Suckup? Is he somebody that you maybe looked at in the draft or admired or a connection to?
Yeah, just seen him kick for a long time, and that consecutive streak that was pretty impressive for a long time. You could tell he got injured.
All right, we have time for 2 more questions. We're going to go with Greg Allman, then Ira.
Hey, Bruce, I know we've kind of been asking you a lot of day-to-day practice personnel type questions, but just stepping back, you've had a month here in training camp. I just want to ask you how you've adjusted to the unique aspects of what everyone's trying to do right now, and how much you've enjoyed this training camp compared to past years.
Oh, it's always fun to be around the guys. And, this one's added pressure as far as getting things done. It's a shame we couldn't look more at young guys. I hate it for the young guys, but hopefully we can expand their practice squad and get them serious looks down the road in season, and have guys that we can stick in case of emergency. But for me, it's been a blast. It's been very challenging. And sometimes you fall into a routine, it gets old. This one hasn't gotten old, that's for sure. Other than wearing a damn mask all the time.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, our final question comes from Ira Kaufman.
Bruce, a year ago, boy, you couldn't wait to get Mike Edwards on the field, Bruce, after training camp. You loved everything about this kid's potential. And like any rookie, Bruce, he added up his ups and downs. What are you noticing about Edwards, and how good do you think he can be this season?
I think he can be really solid. I mean, Mike's a ball hawk. He gets his hands on probably more balls than anybody back there. He's got good range. His boogaboo has been tackling, and it's using his arms. And he missed a couple of tackles in the scrimmage. So that's for him. He came out of college as a block tackler, and that's something we had to break, and he has to do a better job of tackling. But sky's the limit as far as his ability, and he will get interceptions. It's just he can't miss tackles.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, that's all for today. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.